The text arrived at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. Not a call, not even a proper conversation. Just a simple message from Sarah. Save the date, June 15th. I stared at my phone screen in the darkness of my bedroom, waiting for the follow-up message. The one that would say, maid of honor dress shopping this weekend, or we need to talk bridesmaid details. But my phone stayed silent. The 3 dots that usually indicated Sarah was still typing never appeared. 24 hours passed, then 48. Still nothing. Our family had always looked perfect from the outside. Dad with his steady engineering job, Mom with her book club and volunteer work at the church. Sarah, the golden child who could do no wrong, and me, Jennifer, the reliable older sister who kept everything running smoothly behind the scenes. We lived in one of those suburban neighborhoods where everyone knew each other's business, where Christmas lights went up the day after Thanksgiving and came down precisely on January 2nd. I'd spent 32 years perfecting the art of being invisible while indispensable. When Sarah needed help with college applications, I was there until 2 a.m. proofreading her essays. When Mom got overwhelmed planning family gatherings, I quietly handled the coordination. When Dad's company had layoffs and money got tight, I moved back home for 6 months to help with expenses, sleeping in my childhood bedroom with its faded pink walls and honor roll certificates. But as I sat at my kitchen table that Wednesday morning, stirring my coffee and staring at that text message for the 100th time, something felt different. Wrong. The excitement I should have felt about my baby sister's engagement was overshadowed by a gnawing feeling in my stomach. Why hadn't she called? Why did this feel more like a courtesy notification than a celebration? The answer came 3 days later when my phone buzzed with a group message. The sender, Sarah's Wedding Planning Squad. The participants, Sarah, Mom, our cousin Rachel, Sarah's college roommate Madison, and her work friend Christy. I wasn't in the group. I screenshot the notification before it disappeared, my hands shaking slightly. There it was, proof of what I'd suspected but didn't want to believe. My own sister had created a wedding planning group chat and hadn't included me. The older sister, the one who'd helped her through every major life event since she could walk. I called Mom. "Hi, honey!" Her voice was bright, almost artificially cheerful. "What's up?" "I saw the group chat notification," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "For Sarah's wedding planning?" A pause, the kind of pause that speaks volumes. "Oh, that. Well, you know how Sarah is with her phones and technology. I'm sure it was just an oversight." "Mom, it's a group chat. You add people manually." Another pause, longer this time. I could hear the TV in the background, the morning news program she watched religiously. "Jennifer, honey, you know how excited Sarah gets. She's in such a whirlwind right now. I'm sure she'll add you soon." But she didn't. Days turned into weeks, and I watched from the outside as social media posts began appearing. Sarah trying on dresses with the wedding planning squad, Mom and the bridesmaids at a champagne tasting, flower arrangement photos, venue visits, cake tastings, all without me. I started saving screenshots, not out of malice, but out of a desperate need to document what was happening, because every time I brought it up, I was met with the same responses. "You're being too sensitive. Sarah's just busy. It's just wedding stress." The gaslighting was so subtle, so expertly executed that I began to question my own perceptions. Maybe I was being dramatic. Maybe this was normal. Maybe older sisters weren't automatically included in wedding planning. But then Sarah called me on a Thursday evening, her voice bubbly with excitement. "Jen! Oh my God, I have so much to tell you about the wedding." For a moment, my heart lifted. Finally, she was including me. "The venue is absolutely perfect," she continued. "It's this gorgeous garden space with string lights and Madison found the most amazing dress for the bridesmaids. It's this dusty rose color that's going to look incredible in photos." "That sounds beautiful," I managed. "What did you want to ask me about bridesmaid duties?" Silence. "Oh," Sarah said, and I could hear the shift in her tone. "Well, actually, we've kind of already filled the bridesmaid spots. It's going to be a small wedding party. Just Rachel, Madison, and Christy. My stomach dropped. Small wedding party? Yeah, you know how it is. Too many bridesmaids and it gets overwhelming. Plus, Mom thought it would be better to keep it simple. Mom thought, not Sarah thought. Mom thought. What about maid of honor? I asked, hating how small my voice sounded. Rachel's doing that. She's been so helpful with the planning, and since she's getting married next year, she has all these ideas. Rachel. Our cousin who lived 3 states away and saw Sarah maybe twice a year. Rachel, who I'd helped move apartments, who I'd driven to the airport countless times, who I'd loaned money to when she was between jobs. But Jen, Sarah continued quickly, I really want you to do a reading during the ceremony. Something really meaningful. You know how good you are with words. A reading, a participation trophy, a way to make me feel included while keeping me firmly outside the inner circle. Sure, I said. I'd love to. It was a lie. But what else could I say? The weeks that followed were a masterclass in emotional manipulation. Every time I felt hurt or confused, the response was the same. I was being too sensitive. I was making Sarah's special day about me. I was creating drama where none existed. When I mentioned that I hadn't been invited to the bachelorette party, Mom sighed deeply. Jennifer, honey, it's just going to be the wedding party. You understand, right? It would be weird to have people there who aren't bridesmaids. When I asked about the rehearsal dinner, Dad looked uncomfortable. It's a small venue, he said, not meeting my eyes. Family only. I am family. You know what I mean, the wedding party and their immediate families. Plus, Sarah's future in-laws, of course. I did know what he meant. I just couldn't understand how I'd become something other than immediate family without realizing it. The final straw came on a Saturday afternoon when I stopped by their house, my childhood home, to drop off a gift for Sarah. I'd found a beautiful vintage jewelry box at an antique store, something I thought she'd love for her new apartment. I walked into the kitchen to find it transformed into Wedding Central Command. The dining table was covered with seating charts, vendor contracts, and fabric samples. Mom was on the phone with what sounded like a caterer, while Sarah sat surrounded by wedding magazines, highlighter in hand. They looked up when I entered, and for just a moment, I saw something flash across their faces. Not joy at seeing me, not excitement to share their progress, annoyance. Oh, hi, Jen, Sarah said, quickly closing the magazine she'd been reading. What's up? I held out the gift bag. I found something I thought you'd like. Sarah's face brightened as she opened it, genuinely pleased with the jewelry box. But even as she thanked me and hugged me, I could feel the subtle pressure to leave. They had work to do, important work. Work that didn't include me. As I drove home, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just witnessed something significant, the way they'd looked at me when I walked in, like I was an intruder in my own family's space, like I was interrupting something private and important. That night, I did something I'd never done before. I Googled Excluded from Sister's wedding. The search results were illuminating and heartbreaking, forum after forum of women sharing similar stories, sisters who'd been pushed aside for friends, daughters who'd been deemed too dramatic for their own family celebrations. The common thread was always the same: years of being the responsible one, the helper, the one who sacrificed for the family, only to be discarded when it mattered most. I found myself reading until 3 a.m., recognizing my own experiences in story after story, the gaslighting, the minimizing, the way families could make you feel crazy for having normal emotional reactions to abnormal treatment. One post in particular stuck with me, a woman who wrote, I realized I wasn't the family problem child. I was the family scapegoat. There's a difference. I'd never heard the term before, but as I researched it, everything began to make sense. The scapegoat is the family member who absorbs all the dysfunction, who's blamed for problems they didn't create, who's pushed aside when they're no longer useful. The golden child, in this case Sarah, can do no wrong, while the scapegoat can do no right. But even with this new understanding, I wasn't prepared for what came next. It was a Tuesday morning when I saw the Instagram post. Sarah had shared a photo of herself at a dress fitting, surrounded by her bridesmaids and my mom. The caption read, Feeling so blessed to be surrounded by my girls, last fitting before the big day. The comments section was full of hearts and congratulations, but one comment made my blood run cold. It was from my Aunt Linda, Mom's sister. "Where's Jennifer? Shouldn't she be there too?" Sarah's response visible to everyone. "Oh, we kept the wedding party small. She's doing a reading instead." But it was the comment thread that followed that broke something inside me. Rachel had replied, "Sometimes smaller is better for photos anyway." Madison had added, "Totally. Plus, Jennifer's not really the bridesmaid type, you know?" Not the bridesmaid type. I screenshot the entire exchange before anyone could delete it. Here was proof in black and white of how my own family, and by extension their friends, truly saw me. Not as Sarah's devoted older sister, but as someone who wasn't quite good enough to stand beside her on her wedding day. That evening, Mom called. "Jennifer, honey, I saw Linda's comment on Sarah's post. I hope you're not upset about that." Which part should I not be upset about? The part where Madison said I'm not the bridesmaid type, or the part where my own family is discussing my exclusion in public? Mom's sigh was deep and dramatic. "Jennifer, you're blowing this way out of proportion. Madison didn't mean anything by that comment. She was just trying to be supportive." "Supportive of what? Of excluding me?" "No one is excluding you. You're doing a reading. You're an important part of the ceremony." "I'm a minor participant, Mom. There's a difference." "Jennifer Marie Martinez, I don't like this attitude. This is your sister's special day, and you're making it all about you." The use of my full name, something Mom only did when she was truly angry, should have made me back down. In the past, it would have. I would have apologized, swallowed my hurt, and fallen back into line. But something had changed. Maybe it was all those late-night forum posts, or maybe it was finally seeing my situation clearly for the first time. "I'm not making it about me," I said quietly. "I'm just trying to understand why I'm not enough." Another pause. This one felt different, heavier. "Jennifer," Mom said finally, her voice taking on that carefully controlled tone she used when she was about to deliver bad news. "I think maybe we need to have a conversation." "Okay." Sarah has been, well, she's been feeling like maybe it would be better if the wedding was just smaller, more intimate. My heart started racing. What does that mean? It means, Mom took a deep breath. "It means maybe you shouldn't plan on coming to the wedding after all." The words hit me like a physical blow. I actually looked at my phone to make sure the call hadn't dropped, that I'd heard correctly. "You're uninviting me from my sister's wedding?" "We're not uninviting you, we're just reevaluating the guest list." "I'm her sister." "I know, honey, but I'm her only sister." "Jennifer, please try to understand. The venue is very small, and with David's family being so large, we just ran out of space. We have to make hard choices." "Harder than excluding immediate family?" "You're not being excluded. You're just—" "This was Sarah's decision, Jennifer. She felt like having you there might create tension." "What kind of tension?" Mom was quiet for so long I thought she'd hung up. "Jennifer," she said finally, "you've been very emotional about this whole wedding. Sarah's worried that you might make a scene." Make a scene. Me, the woman who'd spent 32 years carefully managing her emotions, never causing trouble, always putting family first. I was going to make a scene. Have I ever made a scene at any family event? I asked. "Well, no, but—" "Have I ever done anything to embarrass Sarah?" "No, but Jennifer—" "Then why would you think I'd start now?" "Because you've been so upset about the bridesmaid thing. Sarah's afraid you're going to be angry during the ceremony, or say something inappropriate, or just— She wants to feel relaxed on her wedding day." The manipulation was so perfect, so expertly crafted, that I almost admired it. They'd taken my reasonable hurt about being excluded from wedding planning and turned it into evidence that I was unstable. They'd used my emotional reactions to their poor treatment as justification for even worse treatment. "So let me get this straight," I said. "I'm not good enough to be a bridesmaid. I'm not stable enough to attend my own sister's wedding, but I'm reliable enough to do a reading if you change your minds." "Jennifer, you're twisting everything." "No, Mom. For the first time in my life, I'm seeing everything clearly. I hung up. For the next 3 days, I didn't answer my phone. I let the calls go to voicemail, Mom trying to explain, Dad attempting to mediate, even Sarah herself calling to say she was sorry I was hurt, but that she had to do what was best for her wedding day. Never an apology for the decision itself, just sorry I was hurt by it. On the 4th day, I did something I'd never done before. I turned off my phone completely and sat in the silence of my apartment, really thinking about my life for the first time in years. I thought about all the family gatherings where I'd been the one cooking, cleaning, organizing, while Sarah got to be the guest. All the times I'd put my own plans aside to help with some family crisis. All the ways I'd shaped my life around being the dependable daughter, the helpful sister, the one they could count on. And for what? To be deemed too emotionally unstable to attend my own sister's wedding? The anger that rose in me was different from anything I'd ever felt. It wasn't the hot, explosive kind that burns out quickly. It was cold and sharp and clear. It was the anger of someone who'd finally seen the truth after years of being told she was imagining things. I turned my phone back on and saw 17 missed calls, 12 voicemails, and 43 text messages. The messages followed a predictable pattern: confusion, then concern, then irritation, then anger. The final text from Mom read, "Jennifer, this behavior is exactly why Sarah didn't want you at the wedding. You're proving her point." Even my silence was being used as evidence against me. That's when I knew. This wasn't about the wedding. This had never been about the wedding. This was about power, control, and maintaining a family dynamic where I was permanently cast as the problem, the disappointment, the one who just couldn't quite measure up. I opened my laptop and began typing. Not an angry email to my family. Not a social media post exposing their behavior. I was booking a flight to Iceland. If I wasn't good enough to be part of my sister's perfect wedding, then I wasn't going to be there at all. Not in the background doing a reading. Not as a reluctant last-minute invite. Not as the family problem who might cause a scene. I was going to be 3,000 miles away, doing something I'd always dreamed of but never prioritized because there was always some family obligation, some crisis I needed to help with, some way I was needed. For the first time in my life, I was going to choose myself. The flight was scheduled to depart at 2 p.m. on June 14th, the day before Sarah's wedding. By the time they realized I wasn't coming, I'd be somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean, finally free of the family that had spent 32 years convincing me I wasn't worth including. As I clicked Confirm Purchase on the airline website, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years: peace. The next morning, I woke up with a clarity I'd never experienced before. For 32 years, I'd been living in a fog of confusion, constantly second-guessing myself, wondering if I was too sensitive, too dramatic, too much. But sitting in my kitchen with my laptop open to articles about narcissistic family dynamics, everything finally made sense. I wasn't the problem. I was the scapegoat. The term had appeared in dozens of articles I'd consumed over the past week, each one describing my life with startling accuracy. The family scapegoat is the one who gets blamed for everything that goes wrong, who absorbs all the family's dysfunction, who's pushed aside when they're no longer useful. Meanwhile, the golden child, Sarah, could do no wrong, bathed in unconditional love and support that I'd never received. It wasn't personal, it was systematic. It was a role I'd been assigned before I was old enough to understand what was happening. I opened a new browser tab and started researching Iceland. Not just flights and hotels, but real research. What did I want to see? What had I always dreamed of doing but never prioritized because there was always some family obligation? The Blue Lagoon, the Northern Lights, the Ring Road, glaciers and waterfalls and landscapes that looked like they belonged on another planet. For the first time in my adult life, I was planning something purely for myself without considering anyone else's needs or opinions. My phone buzzed with another text from Mom. "Jennifer, we need to talk. Call me back." I turned it face down and kept researching. That evening, I did something I'd never done before. I called my friend Maya, someone I'd grown distant from over the years because family obligations always seemed to come first. "Jennifer? Oh my God, I was just thinking about you. How are you?" I'm having a revelation, I said, and then found myself telling her everything. The wedding exclusion, the years of feeling invisible, the way my family had gaslit me into believing I was the problem. Maya listened without interrupting, and when I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "Jen," she said finally, "I have to tell you something. I've been watching this happen for years, and I've wanted to say something, but I didn't know how." "What do you mean?" "Your family. They don't treat you well. I've seen it at parties, at group events, the way they dismiss your opinions, interrupt you, make little comments that are just cruel enough to sting but subtle enough that you can't call them out without looking oversensitive." My heart started racing. "You noticed?" "Everyone noticed, Jen. We didn't know what to say, and you always defended them, made excuses for them, so we figured you didn't want to hear it." I was quiet, processing this revelation. Other people had seen it. I wasn't imagining things. I wasn't crazy. "What you're doing," Maya continued, "going to Iceland instead of the wedding? It's brilliant. It's exactly what you should do." "Really? Really? And Jen? I know this is probably scary, but maybe this is your chance to figure out who you are when you're not constantly trying to earn their approval." After I hung up, I sat in my living room and cried. Not the desperate, hopeless tears I'd shed so many times before, but tears of relief. Someone saw me. Someone understood. The next few days passed in a blur of preparation. I researched hotels in Reykjavik, mapped out day trips, bought a new camera. Every time my phone rang with a call from home, I let it go to voicemail. I was done explaining myself, done defending my right to have feelings, done being the family's emotional punching bag. On June 12th, 3 days before Sarah's wedding, I received a text that stopped me in my tracks. It was from Sarah herself. "Jen, Mom told me you're being ridiculous about the wedding. Look, I'm sorry you're hurt, but this is my day. If you can't be happy for me, then maybe it's better that you're not there. But can you at least return Mom's calls? She's really upset." I read the message 3 times, each reading making me angrier. Even now, even after everything, it was about Sarah's feelings, Sarah's day, Sarah's needs. My hurt was characterized as being ridiculous. My reasonable response to unreasonable treatment was somehow my fault. I screenshot the message and then did something I'd never done before. I replied with complete honesty. "Sarah, I've spent 32 years putting your needs before my own. I've celebrated every achievement, supported every dream, helped with every crisis. The fact that you think I'm not good enough to stand beside you on your wedding day tells me everything I need to know about how you really see me. I hope your perfect day is everything you dreamed of. I'll be in Iceland, finally doing something for myself." I hit send before I could second-guess myself, then immediately blocked her number. My hands were shaking. I'd never stood up to Sarah like that. I'd never prioritized my own feelings over hers. It felt terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. The voicemails that followed were predictable. Mom calling me selfish and dramatic. Dad trying to play peacemaker while still making it clear that I was the one who needed to compromise. Even a few texts from cousins who'd heard about the family drama and wanted to know what was wrong with me. But for every critical message, I reminded myself of what Maya had said. Everyone had noticed. The dysfunction wasn't in my head. The problem wasn't me. On June 13th, the day before my flight, I did one final thing. I opened my laptop and began typing a blog post, not for revenge, not to hurt anyone, but because I knew there were other people out there like me. Other family scapegoats who were being told they were too sensitive, too dramatic, too much. I titled it, "When Your Family Excludes You from Major Events, a Letter to Fellow Scapegoats." I wrote about the pattern of being indispensable until you were inconvenient, about the way families could make you feel crazy for having normal emotional reactions to abnormal treatment, about the difference between being loved and being useful. I didn't name names or share specific details that could identify my family. This wasn't about exposing them. It was about helping others recognize their own patterns. I scheduled the post to go live on June 15th, Sarah's wedding day, then closed my laptop and finished packing. The flight to Iceland was surreal. As the plane lifted off from JFK, I watched New York disappear below me and felt something shift inside my chest. For the first time in my adult life, I was going somewhere without telling my family where I'd be, without checking in, without making sure they could reach me if they needed something. I was unreachable, unavailable, free. I'd planned to work on the flight, catch up on emails, be productive. Instead, I stared out the window and let myself feel the full weight of what I was doing. I was missing my sister's wedding, not because I was sick or traveling for work or dealing with some unavoidable crisis. I was missing it because I chose to. The guilt was overwhelming at first. 32 years of conditioning don't disappear overnight. I'd been trained to put family first, to sacrifice my own needs, to believe that loving someone meant accepting any treatment they gave me. But as the hours passed and the distance between me and my old life grew, the guilt began to fade. In its place was something I'd rarely allowed myself to feel: righteous anger. I was angry at my parents for the years of subtle favoritism. I was angry at Sarah for taking my devotion for granted while simultaneously deciding I wasn't good enough for her special day. But mostly, I was angry at myself for waiting 32 years to realize that I deserved better. When the plane landed in Keflavik at 6 a.m. local time, I turned my phone off airplane mode and watched the notifications flood in. 47 missed calls, 63 text messages, voicemails that ranged from concerned to furious. I deleted them all without listening and switched my phone to Do Not Disturb. My hotel in Reykjavik was small and charming, with a view of the colorful houses that lined the harbor. I checked in, showered, and then did something I'd been dreaming about for years. I walked to a cafe, ordered coffee and pastry, and sat by the window watching a city wake up, with no agenda other than my own pleasure. It was June 15th, Sarah's wedding day. At 2 p.m. Iceland time, 10 a.m. back home, I was sitting in the Blue Lagoon, surrounded by milky blue water and dramatic black lava rocks. The wedding ceremony would be starting in about an hour. I took a selfie, not to post immediately, but to document this moment. The moment I chose myself. The water was warm and soothing, and as I floated there, I thought about what was happening 3,000 miles away. Sarah getting ready with her bridesmaids, Mom fussing over details, guests arriving at the venue. And somewhere in all of that, they were probably realizing that I wasn't coming, that I'd actually followed through on my threat. I imagined the conversations. "Where's Jennifer?" She's not coming." "What do you mean she's not coming? She's the sister." It's complicated. For the first time in years, they'd have to explain my absence. They'd have to admit, publicly, that something was wrong with their family dynamic. The perfect facade would crack just a little. My phone, waterproofed in a special case, buzzed with an incoming call. "Mom." I declined it and took another selfie, this one with a genuine smile. At 4 p.m. Iceland time, as the reception was probably starting back home, I posted the Blue Lagoon selfie to my Instagram story with a simple caption. Sometimes the best gift you can give yourself is distance. I didn't tag my location or provide context. I didn't need to. Anyone who mattered would understand. The response was immediate. Friends commenting with hearts and fire emojis. Maya sending me a message that just said, "Yes, Queen." Even some acquaintances reaching out to say they were proud of me for putting yourself first for once. But it was the private messages that really hit me. 3 different women, all sharing their own stories of family exclusion and scapegoating, all thanking me for sharing my journey and saying it gave them courage to examine their own family dynamics. I wasn't just healing myself. I was helping others recognize their own worth. As the sun set over Reykjavik that night, well past 10 p.m. thanks to the endless Nordic summer light, I sat in my hotel room and finally allowed myself to check the voicemails from home. The progression was fascinating to listen to. It started with confusion. "Jennifer, where are you? People are asking about you." Then irritation. "Jennifer, this is ridiculous. You're embarrassing the family." Then panic. "Jennifer, please call me back. Sarah is crying. You're ruining her day." And finally, anger. Jennifer, I don't know what's gotten into you, but this behavior is unacceptable. You're acting like a child. See, even in crisis, they couldn't see past their own perspective. My absence was ruining Sarah's day. I was embarrassing the family. I was acting like a child. Not once did anyone ask if I was okay, if I was safe, if maybe there was a reason I'd felt driven to this extreme. I saved the voicemails, not out of spite, but as evidence. Evidence that even when forced to confront the consequences of their treatment, they couldn't muster any empathy for my position. The next morning, I woke up to 17 more missed calls and a text from a number I didn't recognize. It was from David, Sarah's new husband. Jennifer, I don't know the whole story, but Sarah is devastated that you weren't there yesterday. Can we talk? I feel like there's been some kind of misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. As if 32 years of being treated as lesser than could be chalked up to a simple miscommunication. I replied, Hi, David. There's no misunderstanding. I hope you and Sarah have a wonderful marriage. I'm taking some time for myself right now. His response came immediately. But you're her sister. Family is everything. I stared at that text for a long time. Family is everything. How many times had I heard that phrase used to justify treating me poorly? Family is everything, so I should accept being excluded. Family is everything, so I should swallow my hurt and show up anyway. Family is everything, so my feelings matter less than maintaining the illusion of harmony. You're right, I typed back. Family is everything. That's exactly why this hurts so much. I blocked his number too. Over the next few days, I threw myself into the Iceland experience. I drove the ring road, marveling at waterfalls that defied belief. I hiked to glacier lagoons where icebergs floated like ancient sculptures. I ate fermented shark and learned to pronounce Eyjafjallajökull and had conversations with fellow travelers from around the world. For the first time in my adult life, I was moving through the world as just Jennifer. Not Jennifer the helpful daughter, or Jennifer the reliable sister, or Jennifer the family peacekeeper. Just Jennifer, with her own interests and opinions and dreams. It was revelatory. On my 4th day in Iceland, I was sitting in a cafe in Akureyri when my blog post notification went off. 12 comments, 47 shares, and a flood of private messages from people sharing their own stories of family estrangement and scapegoating. One message in particular stood out. It was from a woman named Rebecca. I just read your post and I'm sitting here crying. I thought I was crazy. I thought I was the only one whose family treated them like they were disposable. My brother's getting married next month and I'm not invited either. Reading your story gave me the courage to book my own trip instead of sitting at home feeling sorry for myself. Thank you for showing me that choosing yourself isn't selfish. I screenshot that message and saved it. This was why I'd shared my story. Not for revenge, but for recognition. Recognition that this pattern existed, that it wasn't okay, and that people had the right to remove themselves from toxic dynamics. That evening, as I soaked in a natural hot spring under the midnight sun, I made a decision. I wasn't going to return home on schedule. I was going to extend my trip. For the first time in my life, I had no obligations, no one depending on me, no crises to manage. I was going to stay in this space of freedom a little longer. I called the airline and changed my return flight, pushing it back by a week. Then, I called my boss and explained that I was taking some additional personal time. She was surprisingly supportive, mentioning that I'd been looking stressed lately and that time away would do me good. Even my boss had noticed something was wrong. How had I missed it for so long? As my original return date came and went, the messages from home became more desperate. Mom threatening to call the police if I didn't respond. Dad trying a gentler approach, asking me to just let them know I was safe. Even Sarah texting from her honeymoon to say she was worried about me. I finally sent one group text to all of them. I'm safe and well. I'm taking some time to think. I'll be in touch when I'm ready. The responses came immediately. Mom, this is selfish and cruel. Dad, your mother is beside herself with worry. Sarah, I can't believe you're doing this to us. Even now, even in their concern, it was about them. Their worry, their feelings, their needs. I blocked them all and continued my journey. On my last day in Iceland, I hiked to the top of a mountain outside Reykjavik and looked out over the landscape that had become my refuge. The country was beautiful in a stark, unforgiving way. Nothing about it was easy or comfortable, but it was honest. What you saw was what you got. No hidden agendas, no manipulation, no gaslighting. Just raw, authentic beauty. I wanted my life to be more like Iceland, honest, authentic, true to itself regardless of what others expected. As I boarded the plane back to New York, I felt different than I had 2 weeks earlier. Calmer, clearer, stronger. I'd proven to myself that I could exist independently of my family's approval. I could make decisions based on my own needs and values. I could be happy without their validation. The hardest part wasn't going to be coming home. The hardest part was going to be maintaining these boundaries when I got there, because I knew they'd try to pull me back into the old patterns. They'd want the old Jennifer back, the one who absorbed their dysfunction, who sacrificed her own needs, who accepted any treatment they gave her because family is everything. But that Jennifer was gone. She died somewhere between the Blue Lagoon and the Northern Lights, between the realization that she deserved better and the decision to actually demand it. The woman coming home was someone new, someone who knew her worth, someone who wouldn't accept being treated as disposable ever again. As the plane descended toward JFK, I turned on my phone and watched 2 weeks' worth of notifications flood in. But instead of the usual anxiety they would have caused, I felt only a mild curiosity. What had they said? How had they tried to manipulate me back into compliance? It didn't matter. Their words had lost their power over me. I'd found something in Iceland that I'd never had before, an unshakable sense of my own worth, and no amount of guilt-tripping, gaslighting, or family obligation was going to make me give that up. I was finally free, and I was never going back to being their scapegoat again.